Hi, AmeriCorps members. As many of you know, my name is Jade Sen, and I'm a field education specialist with the AmeriCorps Survivor Link program. I am going to show you this presentation today to give you some information on member accompaniment. And this is a brief overview of our member accompaniment policy and how to track it in your timesheet. Because I know some of you might have been filling out your timesheets and you see a little checkbox and then a space to write a name for someone who's accompanying you. And this presentation is meant to give you some more background on that and to give you some instructions on how to fill that out. So some words and concepts to know about accompaniment is that you'll hear in the policy when I go over it next is adjudicate. And so when we talk about adjudication, it means to make a formal judgment or decision about something or to pronounce or declare judicially. And so oftentimes you are initiating your FBI background check process, and that is done through ASU. And so many of you provided a fingerprint clearance card to me and Megan for the AmeriCorps Survivor Link onboarding process. In addition to that, you do have to take your fingerprint clearance card down to the ASU Human Resources Office so that they can also provide an additional clearance. So if you have not done that, you haven't initiated the process. And once you do initiate the process though, and they do check your background again, we will get fingerprint results to know that it has been adjudicated or it has been completed. And then next, many of you may or may not know about the NSOPW, but the additional clearance that we run on you is a National Sex Offender Public Website clearance. And so we just utilize that resource that provides the public with access to sex offender data nationwide. And then finally, accompaniment, which this policy is all about. It means that an individual is accompanied when they're in the physical presence of a person who is cleared for access to vulnerable populations. And so if you've initiated your fingerprint clearance process through ASU, but it hasn't been adjudicated and completed yet, then you do need to be accompanied, which means that you have to be in the line of sight of someone who can supervise you while you are working with vulnerable populations. And I'm just going to read this policy to you because I know that that can be helpful for people who are auditory learners. And so although a member may begin their service after the NSOPW has been adjudicated and their state and or FBI checks have been initiated, the member must be accompanied when in the presence of vulnerable populations until the member's state and FBI check results are received and adjudicated. Accompaniment occurs when a member is in the physical presence of a person cleared for access to a vulnerable population. All accompaniment must be reported and documented using the OnCorps timekeeping system by documenting in the comment section of the timesheet. For each week of accompaniment and up until the date of state or FBI clearance, the member's comments must document the following: date of accompaniment, hours of accompaniment, name and title of the person who accompanied. Documentation is considered complete and accurate when all elements are present and when the member's site supervisor has electronically signed the timesheet, indicating the supervisor's agreement that the content of the documentation is true and accurate. And so from this policy, we can see that if your FBI check results haven't been adjudicated yet, then you still need to be accompanied. Once we do receive those results back from ASU, then you will no longer need to be accompanied and you will have fulfilled all of the appropriate steps to have your background check fully completed. Until then, you'll have to follow this process with your timesheet. And so just to give you a visual representation of what that looks like, this is generally what a timesheet looks like. And so you have to put in your hours under the different categories by the days indicated on the sheet. And then for those of you who still haven't had your background check adjudicated or your fingerprint clearance adjudicated, you will have an option and a space to put in an accompanier name. If you have no contact with vulnerable populations, then you can just click NA. And then in the description portion, you can put what you were doing, and maybe you were just organizing some files, doing some administrative work, and you didn't have interaction with any vulnerable population. If in the case you are working with vulnerable populations, and in this example, you can see in the description for Wednesday, January 22nd, this person conducted an intake with 4 clients, and they indicate that they were accompanied by Barack Obama for 8 hours. And so they were able to put the name of that person in the accompanier namespace. And then they included how many hours they worked that day. And so they did that on January 22nd and 23rd. So on the 23rd, when they conducted a group with clients, they were accompanied by Kim Kardashian for 8 hours. And then they put her name also in that accompanier namespace. And finally, in the general comments, we would like you to additionally put the date, how many hours you were accompanied, the name and title of the person who accompanied you. And so as you can see, we have the different titles of the people who accompanied this person in the general comments sheet. So please, for your timesheet, in order to follow all of the policies and guidelines associated with accompaniment and ensuring you've had the appropriate background check, please follow this until we have received your results and your background check has been adjudicated. And so a question that I bet many of you have is, why do members have to do this? And so you have turned in your fingerprint clearance card. You may have done an additional background check for your host site. And I really appreciate that you've gone to these great lengths to work in the agencies that you've been placed at. And so we do all of these different background checks because we need to make sure that all members have been thoroughly screened so that we can ensure the safety of the vulnerable populations our program serves. And then in addition to that, we need to be in compliance with the policies and guidelines set by the Corporation for National and Community Service. And so those are 2 really big reasons why documenting your accompaniment when your background check hasn't come through quite yet. So if you do have any questions, feel free to contact me or Megan Farrell by email or by phone, and we would love to help answer any additional questions you have about this process.